everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought I'd do a video going through some of the ideas when it comes to World War mode. And what I mean by this is generally I do like a post-World War mode seasonal thing. The general idea is to get my thoughts out there about the season itself, how it can be improved, and so on and so forth. But because of the conversations I've been having before even this World War mode season has happened, I feel like making this video as like a preemptive thing is the way to look at it. Basically giving thoughts of the pre-season and the issues that at least I and many others have been running into. Before we get started, let's talk about a squadron. So Tech ES, which is the main squadron that is going forward in World War mode, we are full. So is Tech WS, and so is Class, who is one of our partnered squadrons. But if you are looking for a squadron in order to research your squadron vehicles and also maybe participate in World War mode as well, you can join Class 2, CLAS2. You can have a look in War Thunder itself. Make sure to just click on them and go to the sign-in thing or whatever it is, and basically say apply to the squadron. You can get in and get yourself some nice activity towards your squadron vehicles and also participate in a more casual way in World War mode. I've tried to push as many people towards it as possible, so therefore people can kind of like learn the mode and just have fun and see what it's like, so we can get more people interested in it over time, and I'm extending the hand to you guys as well. So, let's talk about this season of World War mode and how, at least right now, it has been perceived in the circles that I'm in compared to other seasons. So the first two seasons were mainly World War II focused. They mainly relied around rank 2 and 3 vehicles, and what this meant is once the vehicle lists were released, you would be able to research them. Even if it was only a week in advance, it generally meant that you were able to touch or at least research a decent amount of these vehicles, so you would be able to participate in a way which would make you, combat effective. This time that's not the case, and the major difference between the conversations that I've been having beforehand for the other seasons and this one is instead of strategies, it's about the vehicles. The majority of people I've talked to, the conversation has gone exactly like this. Oh, I'm excited for World War mode to come back, but I don't know how I'm going to get all of these vehicles. Or they've gone, oh, this looks really interesting, but only if we play the Soviet side. Or, but only if we play the German side. And it's because of the fact that this World War mode needs top-tier vehicles for you to be combat effective in order to actually participate in any type of competitive level. Now, I understand the whole argument about, oh, well, they give you default vehicles, so therefore, whatever happens, you'll have something which will be combat effective. No, that's not the case. A Leopard 1 compared to a Leopard 2A4, when facing stuff like T-80Bs, you might as well not turn up in the Leopards. There is no point, especially against structured squadrons. You will get your face beaten in, and it will not be fun. Stuff such as a F-40 Phantom versus something like a MiG-17, there is no competition there. It is not an interesting fight. You will just die and you will be mobbed up. And the power levels between the default vehicles and the top vehicles are massive, so therefore, yeah, it's going to be rough if you don't have all of the vehicles when you're against, once again, structured squadrons. And the fact that a lot of the conversations I've been having aren't about, oh, well, what side do you think will play, or what about the strategies of the maps? How do you think helicopters are going to affect stuff? Because last time, a lot of the stuff which was talked about, at least from a squadron point of view, is, oh, I wonder how naval is going to affect stuff, A lot of people were interested in that. This time, it is literally just, how the hell am I going to get these vehicles? Now, on the Twitch stream over the last week or so, I've basically been trying my best to research all of the vehicles as possible. I've been researching at a rate of one top tier vehicle every 1.5 days. So 390,000 RP every 1.5 days. And I still don't have all of the vehicles that are available, because guess what? I'm not exactly a top tier player in either skill respects or experience respects. And in order for, in order for this to be compensated for, what had to have happened is I would have had to be told about, World War Mode way before this, instead of going on this crazy grind spree and try my best to get to these top tiers. And I know for a fact a lot of people, not just in TechES, but in many squadrons, are not going to get half of the vehicles required for these World War modes, and it's just going to make everything, instead of tactics being the one which wins the battle, now it's just going to be who has the right vehicles in the battles. And in a competitive game mode, that just sounds, really sad. It reminds me of if you have like a League of Legends game and you have, I don't know, 3 people on the opposing side, and they're all one-tricks, right? So they all only play one hero. Then they get banned out, and then what you see is a very, very underwhelming performance from them. Well, that's basically what I see here, where one side, if they don't have the correct vehicles, is just going to get banged out by the other side. But it isn't exactly their fault, because they were told about it on such short notice. The fact that the majority of these vehicles are the toppest tier, especially when it comes to the aviation, and the fact that people were only given 2 weeks to grind these out, I think is ludicrous. What has to happen in the future when it comes to trying to fix these issues is telling about the World War mode way in advance. What I mean by this is you don't have to give full details. What you have to do is, let's say they want to run a World War mode on the 1st of July. Right, which is what they're doing. What they have to do in something like March or even February, after the first season of World War Mode that we had this year, so the second overall, they need to go, okay, they need to make a news article with general details. Not something which is gives specific stuff, because I'm sure that hasn't been worked out by that point. But what you've got to do is you've got to put down, okay, we're looking to create scenarios for World War Mode which will encompass high-tier aviation and ground Soviet vehicles. That's all they have to say. And then they have to do that for other nations as well. Because technically, for this World War mode, you need 3 nations at full top tier. America, Germany, and also the Soviets, right? And that's what we know of. We don't even know about the other 2 operations. And we are, 3 days away from the start. It's ridiculous. So you need to tell people way in advance, even if it's just minor details of what's going to be used. If you don't do this, then you're going to end up, as I said, in the situation we find ourselves in right now, which is where people will be forced to use vehicles which are insanely inferior compared to their competitors a lot of the time, and they're just going to get clapped hard. And it's not going to be a fun experience. They're not going to come back to the game mode unless they're trying to, do it for the challenges, and that's it. And you don't want that, because I thought the whole point of this is it was supposed to be like a competitive environment, especially for squadrons. At least that's how it was sold to me. So minor details required a whole lot in advance, so people can prepare their tech trees for it. And if Gaijin themselves cannot give these minor details a few months in advance, then what needs to happen is their planning needs to be better. If they are making these decisions, let's say a month before they are happening, which I am sure is not happening, because if that is happening, we have real issues when it comes to a lot of different things. But I'm sure these decisions are made way in advance. So give us some details way in advance so we can prepare for them to give you a better actual, look at the World War mode itself instead of, what we have. The next thing that has to happen in order to have any sort of competitive strength or even integrity to this is some form of practice mode. The fact is, that in World War mode, if you are a competitive squadron, or if you're a squadron who is aiming for first, which, in my opinion, when it comes to techies, it's a nice goal, but it's pretty much unattainable, mainly because we have too many people who have jobs, we have too many people who are a little bit older, a little bit more structured, and have other stuff going on, like family, work, and that's good, because, we are a more mature community. It means that the community itself is a lot more cool, and there's hardly any, anger in the community. It's very well formed, and I'm very proud of TechES. I'm also very proud of TechWS as squadrons, but it's just not really feasible for us to fight with the big dogs, because a lot of them just play the game all the time. They're very sweaty, they don't have a lot of other stuff to do, and there is a reason why they're top of their field. There's also some other factors, but we'll go into them on another day. When it comes to being able to compete on any level strategically, what has to be added is some form of practice mode. Because the only way you can fight right now is in a ranked environment. Every operation you have is affected by, or if you lose that operation, you are affected on the rankings. It's as simple as that. So you can't try new strategies, you can't try weird things, you can't try really anything, because the moment you try stuff, what happens is if you're wrong, well, guess what? Your ranking gets screwed and you get screwed as well. So it's much better to actually have a practice mode environment where you would be able to try these strategies, you would be able to just have a little bit of fun and just attempt different things, even if it is just an offline system where the same person moves both sides of the board. It would mean that it would give you an environment just to be able to test stuff and to run stuff, and this needs to be given at least a week before operations exist, and this will easily improve the actual, not just the competitive part, but it will mean that when people ask me, like on my Twitch streams, or when people ask me on YouTube, how does World War Mode work? I can point them towards this and go, hey, give it a go, have a bit of fun. Maybe you'll be interested in commanding and stuff like that. So yeah, it would be a wonderful tool that would make everything just so much better. And I can't think of another game which has any form of competitiveness to it which doesn't have a practice mode and just has a rank mode, right? Even War Thunder, with its other parts of, let's call it, the competitive scene, such as the tournaments, you can go play on those tournament maps. You can go play with those tournament rules in stuff like custom battles. You can practice against others, but for some reason in World War mode, it's just you can't, and you're just screwed. So yeah, a practice mode is definitely required for stuff like this, especially since the first time a lot of people are going to see these new operations is when they start them for the first time on the 1st of July. The next one is being able to challenge a squadron one-on-one unranked, and this is similar to the practice mode. Once again, since we have an environment where a squadron can only play ranked in this mode, you're not going to see any interesting strategies. You're not going to see people try stuff. You're not going to see people, try and work out how to play it properly. Instead, what you're going to find is people are going to circle in on one thing that works, and they're just going to do it over and over again. And there isn't enough time to be able to work out how to counter that because there is no way of practicing stuff. That's what we saw last World War mode, where people were very sure on their tactics. They basically used them every single game, and it worked to a decent effect, but it wasn't the optimum strategy. But because there was no way of actually working out an optimum strategy, it was literally pointless. So yeah. Being able to challenge a squadron one-on-one unranked means that you could have great camaraderie between squadrons. You could have, let's say, TechES versus class, and you could, actually go into the battlefields and have some actual battles. Maybe you give some SL and RP to each side, not a lot, just enough, and The whole point is you could pit commanders versus commanders, and you could see who could come out on top. It could be a cool weekly event, and it could mean that at the same time, instead of just doing, the Gaijin official ranked stuff all the time, what you could also do is you could have independent tournaments run. You could have independent commanders versus other commanders. I would love to run something like a 8v8 or like a 6v6 setup of tournaments where like whoever wins it gets so much GE or so much premium time, whatever it is. And the whole point of it would be just to see how people deal with under pressure, how commanders work, or what squadrons are just better than other ones. It's the same thing with the whole tank football thing. I would love to run a tank football tournament, but every time I've asked for, being able to do it, I've just had a massive wall in my face. And I feel like this would be just a similar thing, so I'm just not even gonna bother. I'm just gonna make a video about it and talk about how it's kind of required. Some form of unranked mode is required for this, so people can just test stuff and work out how the actual mechanics work instead of just be thrown into a ranked environment. It would not be fine with any other game. It is not fine with this game. The next one is giving more time for preparation when it comes to articles themselves. So this basically means it's very similar to the telling about the World War mode way in advance, but instead, when it comes to the articles, we should get a little bit more time. So the fact that everything is on top of each other. What happened in the second season of World War mode in January is you literally had 4 straight days of articles. You had the announcement that it was coming. The next day you had the BA11 devblog, the next day after that you had the Phelps devblog, and then after that you had the article explaining the whole of World War mode and saying that it was coming in 4 days. So that means that in January, for the second season of World War mode, you had 8 days to prepare from when you were told about it. So I will say they've improved this time up to 2 weeks. That's still not enough, especially since the article which World War mode, is coming and everything is going to be in, is going to either be on Monday or Tuesday. This is not good enough. This information that we are getting is not quick enough. This needs to have been done 2 to 3 weeks ago so people can prepare and people can talk about strategies or people can talk about what to do. The information that we have right now for what is supposed to be a competitive game mode is not good enough. It is as simple as that. I don't know how else to put it. You would never tell, let's say, an esports team or just a football team. Let's just say a football team going into a match. Imagine if 5 minutes before the match, they were told that a bunch of the rules changed and you could run around for 5 seconds with footballs in your hand, right? It would be ridiculous. It would be absolutely ridiculous, but for some reason that's okay in something like this. So hopefully that gets changed. Though it would also be nice if on an official Gaijin service, whether it be the YouTube channel or whether it be the Twitch, a video of a mock battle, or a video that I personally could point to and go, okay guys, if you're interested in World War mode, this is what it looks like. And they kind of have that when it comes to the videos on the War Thunder Wiki, and I'm very happy, and as I've said before, very, very, very happy with the stuff on the War Thunder Wiki. The fact that it's been improved as much as it has is awesome, and hopefully it gets improved more, going forward. But it would be cool to have, a Twitch stream of whoever the dev is for World War mode, and somebody like Sean sat down, and then Sean, controlling everything, doing what he does, and then having the World War mode developer talk about, what's happening and basically going through a mock battle of the different stages of what's going on. This would give people a template and a visual representation of how the game mode works, and it would also mean that it would give content creators a thing to point to go, okay, this is what it looks like. And I'm going to make a lot of efforts this World War mode to try and stream as much of it as I can, so therefore I can show you guys what it looks like. So if you're interested in that, or you're confused about World War Mode, make sure to check out the stream, so therefore you can see it. The next one is a squadron lock. So this one's probably going to be the hardest to implement and probably impossible, and it's also something which guys you might want to do. One of the things that we've seen for a long time when it comes to competitions like this is you have a set of maybe 200 to 300 people who are very, very good at the game and want to win by any means necessary. Basically, they are individuals who dominate the tournament scene and have done for an incredibly long time. A lot of them have their own squadrons, though, and they kind of just sit in them and play in them, and then what happens is they come together for stuff like World War Mode in specific squadrons, which they leave alt accounts in to command. And the general idea is they work out which squadron to pick, and then they go into that squadron all, and then they just play together in them. So they only come together at certain points, and the whole point of it is to smash everybody else's face in, which is completely fine. The problem is it destroys the whole competitive integrity of the whole thing if what you can do is you can just sit there and amass the best players in the game who are, or who don't have jobs or who have time on their hands to be able just to play continuously and just smash people's faces in. It's not too fun, if I'm honest with you, coming up against those squadrons, and it is kind of how it is, you have to deal with it. But the main thing is, I think it's a real issue that they can set it up. It would be much better if there was some kind of squadron lock system, like 3 months before a World War Mode, so therefore people would have to stay in the squadrons where they're sat, instead of being able to move squadrons and just create mega squadrons to destroy people. And if they want to create mega squadrons to destroy people, then they can sit in those mega squadrons to destroy people for months, instead of just sat there for a few days and then move on back to their old squadrons. It's the same issue that Squadron Battles has had for a very long time. There's been a lot of dumb accusations when it comes to Squadron Battles, people leaving, people joining, and also the fact that you have alt accounts at the highest level of Squadron Battles, which just shows how ridiculous the whole thing is, which is why I don't make any content around it and never will, because the whole thing is just a disgraceful business. There's no honor, there's no integrity, there's no interest. It's just boring to talk about, and a lot of the people involved I find boring to talk to. So the fact is, I think some form of way of limiting this behavior would be a way forward, just for the competitive integrity point, and also just so you can't just make a megalodon which would just trample everything in its path. Because then what you end up having is you end up having 1 or 2 or 3 squadrons dominate everyone else, and nobody else wants to play. And then what will happen is the game mode will die, and then you'll have those 3 or 4 or 5 squadrons be like, why did it die? It was really fun. And it's like, yes, because you were sledgehammering everybody else because of the fact that all you have to do is just garner everyone together, get the old band back together to smash in faces. And it's the same issue that the tournament scene has when it comes to War Thunder. If you know anything about it, a lot of the people who are in it are people who have been in it for years and years and years. There is not a lot of fresh blood in it, let's say, and it's because of this exact issue. So I don't like it. It's not cool. And it's kind of sad how a lot of the changes when it comes to this season have been specifically to garner to that individual set of people. And then people wonder why the game mode will decrease because they don't want to get their heads smashed in. The next one is all vehicles for free. So this was one I kind of had to debate in my head, but I think because they've decided to go for this really modern World War mode, and what I mean by this is tons of 380, 390, and 400 RP vehicles, it is required to give these vehicles for free, just for the competitive integrity part of it. The fact that a lot of people are going to have just the default vehicles and it's going to be their first experience in World War mode, especially since this is the first World War mode that Xbox players can actually partake in, this is going to be a horrific experience for a lot of people. They're going to get their heads smashed in because of the vehicles that are being used, and this is not good. This is really not good, because it is not their fault that they were only told 2 weeks in advance when it comes to all of this stuff. So I would rather have 20 people running around the sky in stuff like F4E Phantoms who are not sure how to use them, compared to people running around the skies in Super Mystères versus stuff like MiG-21s. It's not going to be fun for them. It's not going to be fun to face. It's just going to be, you get rid of the competitive aspect there and you just turn it into who has the right tools. And that to me is not a skill in itself. Because the fact is, did you guess right when it came to what you are grinding out, right? Which is not good. The last point I would like to say is prizes should be permanent for squadrons and not seasonal. So one of the things that at least the Techie Squadron got the last World War mode was we got some cool decals, and this was for finishing in the top 10. We got some pretty cool decals. I've used them a few times on vehicles, but it's a nice memento. It's a nice reminder of the season itself, and the fact that we did well that season. The problem is the prizes, such as those, are seasonal, which means that when this World War mode starts, or when it ends, we're going to lose those decals. And I don't think there's any reason to. I think it would be much better just to have specific decals for each specific season. It can't be that much work to be able to create 3 separate decals, and if it is that much work, I will give you some artists who will do it for very low prices. In order to get them into the game and a little bit of advertisement. So the fact is, it would be nice to have some kind of permanent stamp, kind of like how in the Squadron tab you have that permanent stamp of like where you finished when it comes to the number. I think the decals could be the same thing. I also hope that the coins make a appearance again. If you don't know, the coins are you get like a coin for each operation, so that would be lovely to see too. We'll have to see when it goes forward. So yeah, those are my thoughts going into this World War mode, and as you can see, a lot of them are quite negative, and well, there's a reason for that. The fact is, because we have such a high barrier of entry here, it's going to be hard to actually compete on a decent level. And yeah, I don't know, man. I'm hoping. I really think World War mode is a really cool feature in War Thunder. I really hope that it's something that gets a little bit, more planning to it. And hopefully what we see going forward is it taking off. I'm just worried that this season is going to be just like beating up kids for a lot of people, because it's going to be the haves and the have-nots. Hopefully I'm wrong. I really hope that I'm wrong. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Battling Bacon, Blackie, Chris Giltnane, Conte Baraka, Daniel Stanton, Elove Goat, Jay Wilt, Martinez, Trigger Hippie, Universe, Eugens Terry, and also I'm Devilish and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.